All right, I'm going to interview Austin Teague here about stuff.
Excellent. Stuff
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Things. So you got shot like twice.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, the first time's here in the arm here. See, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I have a good friend, lives outside of Atlanta. And he came up for the summer a couple years back, and I decided that I was going to teach him to shoot a gun because, I mean, we've got a few around my place. And so I went in, got this .22 revolver, stepped outside, gave it to him, finally convinced him to quit holding it sideways while holding his crotch. And had him standing about 5 feet away from me to my right, and the target was about 15, 20 feet to my left, and I was standing between him and the target. And I looked at him, and I asked him if he was ready to shoot the gun, and I looked at the target, and at this time I had a cigarette in my hand. And I looked at him, and he had the gun up ready to shoot, and so I looked at the target, and at the last second I threw my arm up to take a drag off of the cigarette. And then I heard blam! And then I felt a burning sensation in my arm. So I instantly dropped my cigarette, wasted a perfectly good Marlboro, and commenced to screaming like a woman. And it was pretty profane. I was like, "You shot me! You shot me!" And he was like, "I know, man, I know. It was an accident." I was like, "How do you accidentally shoot a mother? Like, it's not an accident." And so I tore my shirt off and wrapped it around my arm and ran inside the house. And my granddad served multiple tours in Vietnam. So when I ran into his room, I was like, I got shot. He was like, "Where were you shot at?" And I was like, "Right in the arm." Told me to quit being a pussy. So we go into the bathroom, and he pours half a bottle of Jack Daniels on it. So about this time, my arm's burning from a gunshot wound and half a bottle of Jack Daniels. And he says, "Well, I'm going to have to pull it out with a pair of pliers." And round about then's when I passed out. Woke up in the hospital about 2-3 hours later, and the doctor was pulling fragments of lead out of my arm. And since then, I haven't let anybody shoot guns at my house. Kind of a self-preservation thing going on. Yeah.
All right. Now I think there's at least one rule at this school that was caused by something you did.
Yeah. Well, sitting in Miss B's class next doors, and we were talking about the Holocaust, and she was talking about how the Nazis were pushing Jews off of this cliff. Me and a couple boys was in the back of the class laughing. Now, not about this, of course. And she stood up and got all angry and was like, "You can't even survive a fall from as high as this window." So I stood up, said bullshit, pushed the door open and jumped. And hit the ground and rolled and was running back up the commons area steps. About the time Jack Laws was standing there. He looked at me, looked at the window. He said, "You just jump out that window, son?" I said, "Maybe." I may or may not have just done that. And he said, well, what do we do?" And I said, "Well, I don't really know, Jack, honestly." So he took me to the office. Got all three principals in the same office together, told them all at the same time. Stuart Jolly got him a referral in his little rule book, started flipping through it, and he said, "Well, I don't know what we're going to do about this. There's no checkbox on this referral or rule in the book about jumping out of the window. We just kind of assumed people wouldn't do it." And so they called the nurse in there, had her come in and give me a psych eval and check my legs out to make sure I didn't break anything. Which kind of threw me for a loop, because I figured if I broke my legs, I probably wouldn't be able to walk to the office and whatnot, but whatever. So they let me go. I did have to write a 1.5-page report about how jumping out of windows could be detrimental to your health, but I mean, all in all, that wasn't too much, but now it's against the rules.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Ruined it for everybody else.
Yeah, I ruined it for everybody else. Oh well.
Now I think you, a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken, you shot a baby.
We should clarify that it wasn't a real living baby. It's one of them animatronic evil babies that the school gives women so that they don't get pregnant. Yeah, it wouldn't quit crying. And after about 3.5 hours of it, I determined that it was probably broken. So I decided that I would make sure of that. And I struck it against a tree a couple of times, but it didn't shut up. So I shot it 3 times in the chest with a 9mm. Quietened it up. Never made a sound again. Cost me $600. That'll happen.
Yes, it will.
Speechless? You alright?
Yeah, I think I'm out of questions. How much time is it?
5.5.
How long should this be?
Because
Because we can go on for a while. Audience.
Ask one more question.
One more question? Okay. I can ask as many as you want. I'm sure he has stories. Tell us another story. What's happened to you?
Well, I don't exactly know what story would be the best to tell, honestly.
What about the dog in the snow?
Oh yes, that's a very
That's a good story, I reckon. Well, me and a good friend of mine and my brother decided one winter today that we was going to go to Walmart. Now, keep in mind that the snow was about 2.5 feet deep on the ground, and that didn't bother us a bit. We decided we were going to go to Walmart. So we took this old back road on the way to Walmart, and little wiener dog ran out in front of the car. Now, my buddy, he's not entirely in his right mind, and so he slams on the brake, and which crashes my head into the dashboard, and he's in the middle of screaming, "We gotta catch that wiener dog! We gotta catch that wiener dog!" And I'm over here thinking, I gotta catch my teeth that you just knocked out all over this car because you want to catch a wiener dog. Now, granted, it wasn't a small wiener dog. I'd say it was probably the second largest I've ever laid eyes on. And so he jumped out of the car along with my brother, and they proceeded chasing after this wiener dog. Now, when I got out of the car, I, being semi-intelligent, looked around and realized that the wiener dog had dug a tunnel through the snow to get onto the road. So we weren't dealing with your common everyday wiener dog here. And they chased after it, and it looked up, saw them, and sped off into the snow, and was going as hard as it could to dig a little tunnel through the snow. And my buddy decided that the best thing to do would be to dive off of the road into 3 feet of snow and try to catch it by its hindquarters. Turns out it didn't work out too well for him. He grabbed a hold of it, and it span around and bit him in the nose. And so he started screaming. I mean, it did bite off the tip of his nose.
I believe he's had his nose bitten off or bitten off a lot, hasn't he?
He's had his nose broken 12, 13 times, and it bit him on the end of the nose, and he started screaming. So my brother decided that the heroic thing to do would be to jump in there and save him and the dog. And so the dog, when he grabbed a hold of it, became, I guess, feared for its life, and started to claw at his chest and bite at his neck, and so he's bleeding and scratched up. And after seeing this, I mean, I'm just literally on the road, on the ground, rolling around laughing, because, I mean, it's hard not to laugh when you see 2 idiots attack a wiener dog and then lose doing so. And so the dog burrows its way to freedom, and the rest of them are laying in the snow all cripped up and whatnot. And so we get back in the car, and, you know, my friend's bleeding, my brother's bleeding, and I'm still laughing. I mean, I can't barely breathe because I'm laughing so hard at the 2 of them. And I asked him what he would have done if we'd actually caught it, and after about 5 or 6 minutes, he looks at me and he says, probably just to turn it loose in Walmart. So, yeah, don't chase after a wiener dog. That's the moral of this story.
Kids, don't chase wiener dogs in the snow. All right then, I think that's
All right, cheerio.
all right.